Beautiful scenic view around the Villarreal circuit. Let's hear from Thiago Monteiro.
We are in Villarreal, amazing racetrack, really challenging. Home race for me. It's been an amazing week so far. Got 2 great races. Warming up my tires, of course, my brakes, my gearbox, everything. Getting to look at the track before we start for 2 great races. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure we will. See you later. Back to you.
Good luck to Thiago Monteiro and to everybody else out there. It is going to be very hot work for the drivers. It's very physical as well, with the 3 heavy stops. We're talking to Rob Huff after free practice, and he was saying, because the corners are so fast, it's real hang-on stuff. He said, you end up breathing in all the time. He said, sometimes it's hard to remember to actually breathe out, because you're holding your breath to keep your body under control through so many of these corners. And Matt Neal, physicality of a racetrack like this, I mean, this is going to go down for these guys as one of their highlights, because it is teetering right on the brink of being really quite dangerous.
Well, we had a few drivers about safety on Friday, and Jose Maria's answer to that was, we're not playing with Barbie dolls, so it's
the grid is complete in Villarreal. The first ever race here in the World Touring Car Championship. Round 15 of the series. Jose Maria Lopez on pole to your left. To the right of your picture, Sebastian Loeb. Then Ugo Vallant, Norbert Michelis. Watch Gabriele Tarquini, third back on the left-hand side. He's always a quick starter. Goes around Vallant, who makes a shocking getaway. Hondas are going to be 3, 4, 5. And there comes Muller. Critically, he gets between Van Lagen and Katzberg, and Mar goes by him around the outside of Vallant. Muller's been boxed in by Ugo, still behind Ugo Vallant, and touch there from the Lada. And Mar gets a touch from Vallant and drifts out wide and nearly into the wall. Vallant goes back through, all arms and elbows, 3 Ladas behind. Lopez leads from Loeb with, in third place, Norbert Michelis, looking back from Ugo Vallant. And the attention on Ivan Muller is clear. Second in the championship, he dropped 5 points further back. And now Vallant in trouble. By goes Mar, by goes Muller. And Muller will immediately pile the pressure on his Chinese teammate to try and get by.
Muller made a cracking start there, but then got boxed in by Vallant, and then Mar's making it very difficult for him. I don't know what's happened to Vallant, but
I'm suggesting maybe a puncture.
Yeah,
he's had
there was
contact.
a bit of rubbing in those first few corners.
He's dropped right out the back, so it might have knocked a valve off the wheel. Here's the really slow second chicane on board with Nicky Katzberg. He's been jumped by his teammate Rob Huff. As there is your battle for, where is Mar? 9th place at the moment. Such a long lap here, 2.7 miles, 4.7 kilometres, and look at the speed down the back straight. Bernardi in the tow between Huff and Coronel. So Coronel trying to make up ground, so too is his teammate Tom Chilton, who didn't make a great start.
Now, what is prevalent over the last few days, they've been searching for track time, but hardly any of the teams and drivers have done race simulation distances. So it's we're going to be into new territory for a lot of these guys now, with brake wear, with tyre wear. So it's going to be interesting to see which ones are consistent. Huffy on the move by the looks.
Trying to get by Katzberg. Van Lagen's already escaping. Nicky Katzberg holding up Rob Huff. Rob Huff with the orange stripes across the roof of his Lada Vesta. And white lettering on the roof of Nicky Katzberg. So Mar is in 6th, Muller in 7th. They did make a good start. Muller must get by Mar. Every single place he can pick up in this race, every single point, could end up bringing him closer to a championship title. And if he sticks behind Mar, or gets stuck behind Mar for more than 2 or 3 laps, he's going to have no tyre left to try and get by his teammate. Lopez and Loeb out front, then Michelis, Tarquini and Monteiro. Maybe Bernardi in that red, white and green Citroen, trying to get by Rob Huff now. And at the onboard show to the viewer and to us seated in the commentary position just how tight the track is. There's a very slow Ugo Vallant, left rear or left front maybe, because it's steering straight.
It's not sitting any awkward way. way. So,
Nesta Girolami now, he pulled off earlier in qualifying about, it seems, the same place. I was just about to say from the timing screen, Girolami in trouble as well. And in fact, he didn't make it through qualifying, crashed in Q2. So 12th place for both races.
Michelitz is staying with those two lead Citroens well. In fact, all three Hondas are. So it's good they're keeping in touch. So it'll be interesting to see how the respective marks get on with the tyre wear.
I want to say hey to Franny Huff and Matt watching in their new home in the heat of the desert. Watching big brother Rob, getting on with the action here as he tries to get by Nicky Katzberg and move up into 9th place. And again for Huff, you know, the car is identical. There's Vallant in. What's happened there? Alex is on the way to find out.
Huff's lowly grid position was, they had a drama with the car in qualifying, but he definitely seems to have the pace, and he's bottled up behind Katzberg. He needs to get free of Katzberg before he starts wearing his tyres. He'll be losing downforce and eating the goodness out of those front tyres.
Well, look at the way Lopez and Lowe rocketed off the line. Vallant had problems. I wonder if Vallant's problem was actually something fairly major in terms of overheating. Good onboard view from behind Nicky Katzberg of Gabriele Tarquini trying to thread the eye of the needle. Vallant rubbing down the side of, that was Muller and Marr he went between, wasn't it?
He was looking left and right, trying to...
left rear.
That was a bit naughty trying to cut Muller off like that. He looked one way and Marr went the other way.
Yeah, he was trying to defend 3 sides. I mean, it's 4 cars wide there.
But that just goes back to what I say about Vallant. He's like a loose cannon. He tries to cover the corner off when the car's already in it.
That's the impact there with Marr. Damaged right front corner for Hugo Vallant, and I'm sure that impact where Marr got knocked sideways will be the one that did the damage. Didn't make a great start, as you say. One of his big problems with that Chevy is getting it off the line. Lopez, 2 minutes 0.8. That's as quick as they were going in free practice. In fact, that's as quick as some of the cars were going in qualifying. They, in the end, got down into the mid 1 minute 59s, and then right down into a 59.090 for Lopez to set a new track record, or a qualifying track record, establishing the record. Back from Nicky Katzberg as Lopez continues to romp away out front. Well, he has 2 concerns. Win race 1 from pole, guarantee those points, and then he can think about making progress in race 2. If Arndt has to do it the other way around, he has to make progress in race 2 without knowing how many points he's got to try and take back off Lopez, and keep the car in one piece to try and win race 2 from pole.
I mean, the one thing, the advantage Lopez has got, he's got the 5 points from the pole position in the bag. If he can get race 1 in the bag, race 2 is a complete bonus.
Yeah.
So it's Muller's the one with all the work to do. Muller needs to clear Marr fast and then start to try and make ground on the Hondas if he can.
Yeah, to make any ground at all on Lopez, assuming Lopez wins race 1 from pole, which will be a 30-point haul, Muller's got to get in the top 5. And trouble for Nesta Girolami. The Honda is in the pits. Jose Maria Lopez leading, but the Hondas are spreading out behind. Norman Mikulich 3rd, Gabriele Tarquini 4th, Thiago Monteiro in 5th place here, ahead of Ringo Marr in 6th. Marr setting his fastest lap of the race last time round. Monteiro not quite able to stay with Gabriele Tarquini. Girolami with oil pressure problems in that Nika Racing Team Sweden Honda. That's a real shame, because actually he had definite top 5 potential in free practice. Could easily have qualified on the first 2 or 3 rows with the other Hondas. And that, for the first time coming here, he had no less track knowledge than anyone else. No one had ever been here, so everyone was in the same boat. I mean, for a new boy to the championship, that was nearly the perfect scenario.
Yeah, the only thing he has going against him is his lack of time in the car, but he did throw a few new sets of tyres in free practice, and so that gave him a lot of an edge in there to to gain those times when the others were saving theirs for qualifying trim. But Michelitz does seem to be the charging force of the Honda guys at the moment. Whether it's his video gaming background, but he's definitely taken the brave pills this weekend.
I don't know how much simulator knowledge there is of this track. It was only, as we say, reinstated for racing last year, and it's been changed since then for its FIA homologation with added chicanes to slow the speed of these World Touring Car Championship contenders. Jean-Philippe Gregoire de Moustier battling for 15th spot. Rob Huff still bottled up behind teammate Nicky Katzberg, so Lada's 8th, 9th and 10th. Nesta Girolami could be in real trouble because hearing from Alex in the pit lane that it is an engine failure. Now, whether they have a spare engine, whether they certainly have time to replace it before this evening's second race, whether they have a spare engine for him or whether they can beg, borrow or steal one from one of the other Honda teams remains to be seen. Did see Alessandro Marinari of Yas, who builds the Honda Civics, down there with the Nika Racing team, trying to see what their problem was and if there could be some assistance.
The strange thing here is Mars seems to have dropped, Tamar and Tarquini seem to have dropped Muller rather than the other way around. And whether he did have a problem in qualifying yesterday and whether that's coming back to haunt him again today.
Well, now the other thing, of course, was all the bumping and boring. Now you think Mar, who got really knocked sideways by Vallot, might have a car that was more evil handling, just as easily possible that Muller's car shaken off Muller. He's caught Montero, and actually Mar might be the Chevy Citroen that's moving up.
Yeah, very disappointing because in free practice on Friday and Saturday morning, Muller was on fire. He was up there with Lopez, and it was working away for a real great championship showdown here this weekend. And then suddenly qualifying, he's been put on the back foot, and that seems to be carried on. Unfortunately, after qualifying, they have no chance to run the cars. The cars go into parc fermé, then they're sealed, but they have no chance to run and just test the cars before they line up on the grid.
I wouldn't mind betting that the car was straight when it left the line. However, it may not be straight now. Rob Huff also dropping away from Nicky Katzberg. Not very much, just a couple of car lengths, but I think probably that indicates that there's not much left in his tyre. Matt, one of the things about the roads here is they're not really big aggregate in the grain. Because it's a hot country, it doesn't need to contain or disperse water like a racing track would. So the grain fills up with rubber and oil and debris, and it becomes very slick. Add in the extra heat, you know, it's 60 degrees or so the tarmac temperature. That makes grip very hard to find for the tyre, and so you're just burning up tyres probably at a faster rate than you would do on a purpose-built racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, it's when the racing finishes at the end of each day. We've been here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The roads are open up, and it's like Monaco. It's an open road, and there's a lot of dust. There's a lot of farmland around. You can see the dust on the edge of the tracks. But you know, the reason some of these guys, Muller might have dropped back off Mar. I think Muller's a long way, but I think with the Huff syndrome, you know, it's not just your tyres, your engines and your brakes start to get hot. They all need cooling. So Huffy could be being a little bit tactical, drop back, let his car recover, and then he might have another push later on the race.
We were talking to Tom Chilton last night over dinner, and he was saying he's so far back on both grids, there's no point in even wasting tyres. Just put on some that have done lots of kilometres and see what happens at the starts, and see what gaps open up, you know, see what hand Lady Luck deals you, but try and keep a decent set for when they go to the next race weekend in Japan. And that was his strategy. Wondering whether Tom Coronel, who's had a habit in the past of doing things like that, whether he may have done the same on his Royal Motorsport car.
Yeah, I'm just looking back at Bernani, who's in the private Citroen, the Sebastian Loeb Racing Citroen, back in 11th. He is out of position. He should... pretty close going into there, weren't they? He's out of position. He should have got through to Q2, being further up the grid if he hadn't slapped the wall in just at the end of Q1. So I know he was really disappointed, but I was hoping he was going to start moving forward. But then that just shows how difficult it is to overtake over here, as we're seeing with de Moustier and Philippi, because de Moustier seems to have the speed on it.
Big lock-up from John Philippi, Gregoire de Moustier all over the back of him. Moustier's car looks to be running much lower ride height at the front. RML have a new front suspension geometry package coming as well for testing and then for the next races. They're still working on that car. Hugo Vallant again proving third fastest lap in qualifying that the car, yeah, it was third fastest, that the car has real pace, even against the might of Citroën.
Well, all the Chevrolets seem to have been struggling through here, and then Vallant scraped through by the skin of his teeth into Q2 in 12th position, and then suddenly, bang, he ended up getting in the top 5, and he's third on the grid. So it was a bit of a stellar effort off him, but he kept his 100% record up in the race, didn't he?
The pressure now, Matt, for the drivers is to keep your focus, isn't it, and not allow the gap to the car in front to grow. So for Norby to try and keep Loeb somewhere in contact, and for Gabrielli to try and keep Norby in contact. You know, Mar's doing exactly the same here with Thiago, isn't he? Just when you know you're closing, isn't it easier to push hard than if you know the gap's widening?
Oh, I've just you pulled it up. I was looking at the monitor. I thought that was Mar closing on Tarquini, because there's a bit. Mar's not been making many friends this weekend, has he? There's a fair bit of bad blood between him and Tarquini at the moment, and I was hoping we were going to get things spicing up for us a bit. But he daren't have a go at Thiago, because he'll never get out of the city.
Well, he's putting the local hero in the barriers. There goes Gregoire de Moustier looking around the outside of John Philippi, and again really putting his Chevrolet driving colleague under pressure. They're run by different teams. Craft Bamboo running the grey, blue and white car of de Moustier, and Campos racing the blue and white car of John Philippi. Fantastic race action. There's Thiago's dad. He must be waiting for something to happen, hopefully not something that involves Mar moving up a spot. Thiago will be focused resolutely on the road ahead. Mar not close enough really to be a threat. In fact, Mar has definitely dropped back in the last couple of laps. Thiago may be closing on Gabrielli.
Whether Mar's used the best out of his tyres, or they are getting nice and close through there, aren't they? Whether Mar's used the best out of his tyres, or but he does seem to have dropped back a bit. Either that or Montero's upped his pace, because he seems to have caught Tarquini up a wee bit.
Panoramic views around this circuit. Drivers don't have time for that. The eye line will be so low in the car. They sit so low, they'll barely see over these metal barriers, Matt. So you are kind of in this long, never-ending metal canal, aren't you? And all your focus is on the road in front, a long way in front, if it can be.
Yeah, the camera angle that we're actually seeing from is a lot higher than the driver's eye view. When you get the splitter cam, that is more, because the driver sat so far back and so low down in the car, that is more realistic, you know, to the vision they're getting in the car. And it's, as you say, it is like tunnel vision. A lot of it is blind crests. The gradient changes a lot, which you can't really see on the camera angle. So you're getting a lot of the car being unweighted as you're going over the crests, and in compression as you're going through the lower parts.
Lap 9 of 13 here in Villarreal. Round 15 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. Frenchman John Philippi with Gregoire de Moustier right behind him, the Belgian. And here's another battle just a little bit further up the road from them. Nicky Katzberg with his teammate Rob Huff behind. Well, it can't have been a total engine failure for Nestor Girolami, because there's no way there's a new engine in that car. They are sending him back out. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what that tells the team. If they've been able to work on it, fix what ailed it during the race, then there'll be no penalty to be served on the race 2 grid.
What was the old cure? Put some sawdust in the oil.
Yeah, in the diff. Exactly right. If he wants a quiet diff, who am I to disavow him of that? That's a little bit Arthur Daly, I think, for this level of racing. There's your race leader, Jose Maria Lopez, and looking back, that's the view he wants to see. Basically, lots of real estate between him and Sebastian Loeb. Loeb 2.97 back last time. Top speed here, 245 kilometers an hour. That's 152 miles an hour. Just bear that in mind. It's a 2-lane town street with all of the undulations that brings.
It's interesting that a lot of the other drivers, and Huffy was saying, you know, through turns 15, 16, there's no way that they might be flat in qualifying, and it's a definite confidence lift to the race. Yeah. You could hear from the engine note of Lopez, he was absolutely pinned through there all the way. I mean, 100% commitment.
Yeah. There's nothing shy of commitment from Lopez or from Loeb here this weekend, and Ivar Mully, you have to say as well, his qualifying was undone, like a number of drivers, by interruptions. When he was on his only hot lap with fresh tyres, the red flags came out and they all had to trail back into the pit lane, and unfortunately, once you've taken that bite out of your tyres, you're not going to get much back. Nicky Catsburg's engineer on the radio to him. Rob Huff right behind.
I mean, the difficult thing is, because it's a street circuit, it's tight, and it's such high speed, it is notoriously difficult to pass around here, which is what these guys are finding, because there was a couple of good scraps lining up, but they can only put them under pressure for so long before the car gets over temperature and everything. They do have to drop back to let it all cool down before they can have another crash.
View back from Catsburg showed the cloud of dust in the air as Rob Huff went by off that last corner. Catsburg right out to the fringes of the barriers. The whole Huff family here for this last European weekend. Wife Jazz and his mum and dad are here with him. And we're talking again on Friday to Nicky Catsburg and Jaap van Lagen. It does look pretty certain that Lada will keep this threesome in the cars all year long, and sort of, you know, happened to come together, didn't they? Jaap van Lagen got the call as a former Lada alumnus and brought in Nicky Catsburg when they were looking for a third driver. And you want some consistency, you want the team to develop, so you want to keep the drivers. They've got some knowledge, they're bringing more experience in, and the whole thing is starting to pick up momentum and move on a little. Gabriele Tarquini not close enough to Norbert Michelisz to challenge for the podium yet. The black and red Mol Group Honda in third place. The gap is growing. He's now 4.5 seconds behind Sebastian Loeb, but Tarquini is closer. 1.69 last time round. 1.3, I beg your pardon, 1.80. So in fact, the gap has opened up again. Norby has responded to the challenge with a 36.28. Stefano D'Aste just gets it a little hot into the final chicane. Yellow flag at turn 19, that'll be because of the bollard there. So some brave master going to have to leg it out and pick that up. Brave and hot and sweaty, Matt. They've had long days here. They've been on station before 8 in the morning and after 8 in the evening. And was it Nicky Catsburg who hopped the curbs? Yes, it was.
They've got to watch their tyres and suspension and the hubs over those big heavy curbs.
Yeah, and when you straddle it like that, you think about what damage it's doing, punching the flat floor up into, you know, sumps and gearboxes.
It does seem to be status quo at the front now, and, you know, Michelisz was having another wee little push to try and get back in touch with Loeb, but Loeb responded.
Yeah, the two leaders, 36.1s from them, 36.2s from the Hondas, except for Thiago last lap, 36.5 in the final sector. So he's losing ground in that last sector. Maybe he got to, yeah, those are the last sectors on the last lap. Maybe Thiago got to the chicane just a little hot and lost ground. And now Rob Huff has lost ground dramatically to Nicky Catsburg and suddenly has Mehdi Benani all over him. Wonder whether Huff had a little lunge that didn't work.
Well, Benani's had a nice run in clear air. The car should be in pretty good fettle, the Citroen, so Huff's been following nose to tail, so Huff might be carrying a few wounds now with his tyres and everything, so he could definitely have to be look on the defensive for a while, because Coronel's moved up with Benani as well. Yeah.
And Coronel will be hoping that it all goes a bit pear-shaped for the battle in front, because this is for 10th place and a point.
Well, this definitely looks like the Ladas are going backwards rather than the others coming forwards.
Yeah. Right. And we expected that, really, didn't we? They've got so much problem with wheel spin out of the chicanes. Essentially, there's no shortage of power with the engine, but it just all comes in with a bit of a wallop, no matter how gentle you try and be with it. And here's Tom Chilton further back on his worn tyres in 14th place. He has to straight line the chicane.
Yeah, the Lada boys are actually out of position with consistency this weekend. They said put new tyres on, they can actually ring a lap out of the Ladas, but the cars have been so brutal, the chassis has been so brutal on tyre wear that it's yeah, they are going to start to go backwards, which is what we're seeing now.
Exactly right. Jaap van Lagen, the one who's clear in 8th place. Nicky Katsburg 9th. Rob Huff 10th. Mind you, from the beginning of the season, all 3 larders at the moment are in the points, and that's not something you could say for the first half dozen races of the season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one now. Loeb has responded to Michelitz, but he's also starting to turn the tide on Lopez in front of him. Yeah. So Loeb, whether he's looking after his tyres a wee bit better, whether Lopez is just trying to comfortably cruise it now, but only 2 laps to go, so he's going to have to get his skates off. He's going to put him under any sort of pressure.
But he needs to be breathing in his exhaust fumes now if he's going to put Lopez under pressure, doesn't he? Car 3 under investigation for track limits. That's not going to be good news for the Royal Motorsport car of Tom Chilton. Although, in fairness, he's in 14th place. And clearly, he didn't gain an advantage on anybody. He wasn't battling anybody. He just ran out of tyres and/or brakes.
I think Greg DeMoustier is going to know every inch of the back of Jean-Philippe's car by the time he gets to the end of this race. He's had a bird's eye view.
Well, and good defence by Jean-Philippe. He's been locking up left, right and centre into just about every braking area. DeMoustier's been monstering all over the back of him. And look at Coronel closing on Bernani all of a sudden. Coronel can smell blood in the water. Rob Huff in 10th place, chasing Nicky Katsburg in the other yellow larder in your shot. That's 9th and 10th. Bernani, the red, white and green Citroën in 11th. And 12th place, Tom Coronel. Tom Coronel, best or second sector on that last lap. Lester Girolami, incidentally, up to speed now as well in that blue Honda. You can see it just in the background behind Coronel. He's several laps down. Here's Tom Chilton. And Matt, big lock-up.
That's Stefano D'Asti.
Beg your pardon, yes.
No, but exactly the same, mirror image of Chilton.
Yeah. Same deal, running out of grip under braking and just deciding to straight line the chicane rather than risk jumping the curbs and hitting the wall head-on.
Lopez absolutely cruising it now, trying to be super, super safe over the curbs.
Doesn't want to tweak anything, damage anything that might mean a rushed repair job before the races. Now, last lap lunge coming up from Rob Huff somewhere, you think, on Nicky Katsburg. He just wants to put the Dutchman under pressure, but he must try and make it clean because they've got 2 cars, or all 3 cars in the points at the moment, and they don't want to tangle and hand points to Bernani and Coronel on this very last lap. So they'll look at Stefano D'Asti's jump of the chicane. Again, D'Asti on his own, way behind this battle, way in front of Chilton. It's a moot point whether or not he gained anything. And Jose Maria Lopez now relaxing the pace dramatically on the last lap. Just rolling off the last few corners below this great viewing balcony on a block of flats. And out of the roundabout for the final time. He heads to the checkered flag. It is victory in Villarreal. He makes World Touring Car Championship history, the first winner on the streets of this northern Portuguese town. Sebastian Loeb makes us a Citroën 1-2. Norby Michelisz, top independent, he's in 3rd place. Tarquini, Montero and Marr cross the line, 4, 5, 6. Muller still to take the checkered flag in 7th as we watch the battle for 9th place. Katsburg, Huff, Bernani and Coronel. For Bernani and Coronel, the gap closing just too late. There's Zoltan Zengo, Norby's girlfriend with him. And there is the winner's fiancé, Victoire, looking very happy with that. Jose Maria Lopez, Ivan Muller did finish 7th, so that's the target for Lopez to consolidate his advantage in race 2. Is to negate any gains that Ivan might have made in race 1.
Dominant victory for Lopez there, and he'll be straight on the radio with his engineer inquiring where Muller is, how he's got on, and he'll be pretty buoyant getting out of the car because he's had a strong, and he knows Muller's been on a back foot going backwards, so he'll know more what they're pretty close, tight-lipped about the problems they have in the cars, so we don't get to find out about that, but I hope Ivan can get back in it because he's got a front row start for the second race. 17th career win for Jose Maria Lopez. 1 now behind 3-time champion Andy Prio, who's on 18. Gabriele Tarquini on 20. Could well be overtaken before the end of the season. And Alain Menu, who's here in the paddock helping out Grégoire de Moustier. 23 race wins.
Only Rob Huff with 27 and Ivan Muller with 45 remain out of reach this season.